Good day everyone, my name is Micheline Bitigenius and today I will be presenting for ELB 3013 for Task 2. And before that, I would like to thank you to my academic supervisor, Madam Felicita Yi Mayong, for spending your time watching this presentation. But before that, I would like to read the questions for Task 2. There are two questions. Question 1, select a single creative work from the realm of young adult literature. This creative work can be in the form of a song or just chant, poem, story, either digital or printed, and drama. Question number 2, learning activity design. Develop and record a video of your presentation outlining at least 2 distinct language learning activities that utilize your chosen creative work. In your presentation, you must include an analysis of the key features of the selected creative work, and then justify your selection based on the benefits of language art using APA style for using 7th edition, and then elaborate on the steps of the activities, at least 2, exploiting the selected creative work for language learning, and be presented in a systemic and organized manner. For this assignment, I have chosen a creative work from the realm of young adult literature, Maya Angelou's iconic poem entitled Still I Rise. And in this presentation, I will provide a brief analysis of the poem and its key literary features. And then I will justify my selection based on the educational value it offers for language learning, with support from scholarly reference using APA 7th edition. And then I will share 2 detailed language learning activities that utilize this poem to build students' linguistic and literary skill. And then I will conclude with a summary and reflection on how Still I Rise serves as an effective teaching tool in language classroom. And before that, I would like to introduce this picture. This is Maya Angelou, and the one who created this poem, Still I Rise. But before that, I would like to recite this poem before I analyze the content and the literary devices that is used in this poem. Still I Rise by Maya Angelou. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like moons and like suns, with the certainty of tides, just like hopes springing high, still I rise. Did you want to see me broken? Bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries. Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard? 'Cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes, you may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I'll rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the hearts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a black ocean, leaping and white, wailing and swelling, I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak that is wondrously clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestor gave. I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise. So, I will begin my poem analysis with a theme. The theme of a poem is the main topic that the poem conveys. And there are 4 examples of theme that is being used in this poem. First, empowerment. The speaker confidently asserts her strength and self-worth, refusing to let others define or limit her. She speaks boldly, challenging anyone who tries to silence or shame her. For example, in the line, "Does my sassiness upset you?" and line, "Why are you beset with gloom?" And then second theme, resilience. Despite being hurt, oppressed, or underestimated, the speakers keep rising, and her repetition of "I rise" shows an unbreakable spirit that cannot be defeated. For example, in the line, "You may trod me in the very dirt," and then in the line, "But still, like dust, I rise." The third theme is identity. The poem celebrates Black identity and heritage. The speaker embraces her culture, pride, and beauty even when others try to erase or distort it. For example, in the line, "I'm a black ocean, leaping and white." And then in the line, "Welling and swelling, I bear in the tide." And then fourth themes, overcoming adversity. The poem addresses injustice and historical pain but shifts the focus to strength, dignity, and survival. The speaker rises above hate and fear to claim her future. For example, in the line, "Leaving behind nights of terror and fear," and in the line, "I rise." Next, I will be analyze the literary devices in the poem "Still I Rise" by Maya Angelou. There are few literary devices that is being used in this poem. For example, 1. Repetition. For example, in the line, "I rise, I rise, I rise." In this line, the purpose of repetition is to emphasize the speaker's strength, determination, and persistence. And then the speakers want to reinforce the central message of overcoming oppression repeatedly, and then creates rhythm and a chant-like empowering tone. Second literary devices is simile. Simile is a comparison using like or as. For example, in this poem, there are few lines that are using simile. For line, "But still, like dust, I rise." And then line, "Just like moons and like suns." And another line is, "Shoulders falling down like teardrops." The purpose of using simile in this poem is to connect human emotion and strength to natural forces like dust, moon, and sun. And then it was being used to highlight the unstoppable and natural nature of resilience. Another literary device is metaphor. Metaphor is a direct comparison without using like or as, unlike a simile. For example, in the line, "I am a black ocean, leaping and white." And then in the line, "You may shoot me with your words." The purpose of using metaphor in this poem is to compare the speakers to an ocean to symbolize her depth, strength, and power. And then it was used to describe verbal attacks as violent actions to stress the pain caused by words. And then rhetorical questions. For example, in this poem, there are few rhetorical questions that is being used. For example, "Does my sassiness upset you?" And "Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I forgot diamonds at the meetings of my tykes?" The purpose of using these literary devices is to challenge the reader or oppressor, and then to force us reflection about bias, power, and stereotypes, and then to make the tone bold and confrontational. Another literary devices that is being used in this poem is imagery. For example, "I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living rooms." and then you may trod me in the very dirt. The purpose of using imagery in this poem is to create vivid pictures in the reader's mind and appeals to the senses to help the audience feel the speaker's pride, pain, and confidence, and to make the strong visual and emotional impact to this poem. And then alliteration. Alliteration is a repetition of initial consonant sounds, for example, wailing and swelling. The purpose of using alliteration in this poem is to add musical rhythm and emphasis, and then to draw attention to specific ideas or emotions. Next, symbolism. For example, dust. Dust is a symbolic of the speaker's persistence and inability to keep down. And black ocean symbolizes strength, identity, and heritage. Gold mines or oil wells represent inner worth and unshakable confidence. The purpose of using symbolism in this poem is to give deeper meanings to physical image and help represent racial pride, cultural resilience, and inner richness. Another literary device is anaphora. Anaphora is a repetition of a word or phrase at the beginning of successive lines. For example, in the line, you may, but still like dust arise. The purpose of using anaphora is to build momentum and then to reinforce the accusatory tone toward the oppressor and to give the poem a powerful rhythm. Last literary devices that is being used in this poem is personification. For example, because I love like I've got gold mines and digging in my own backyard. The purpose of using personification is to give human traits to inanimate concepts like laughter connected to wealth, and then to add depth to emotional experience. Next, we move to the justification for choosing poem Still I Rise by Maya Angelou. The reason why I choose this poem is because it is relevant themes for young adults. Still I Rise explores themes of resilience, identity, and overcoming oppression issues that align with the psychological and emotional development of adolescents. Young people often face self-esteem challenges, bullying, and societal pressure, and this poem speaks directly to those experiences. This emphasizes that young adult literature should reflect real-life struggles and help adolescents make sense of their worth, according to Nielsen and Friends, 2013. And then, the reason why I choose this poem too is because it is empowerment and voice. The poem gives voice to confidence and self-worth, qualities that are vital for teenagers discovering their identity. Angelou's bold rhetorical questions and repeated affirmations model self-expression and self-assurance. This poem asserts that literature promoting voice and agency is central to adolescent development, according to Bashman and Haas, 2014. Another reason is it is a cultural and historical relevance. The poem addresses racism, the legacy of slavery, and the power of rising above historical injustice. These themes introduce young readers to critical social issues and promote empathy, cultural awareness, and critical thinking. This poem discusses how young adult literature can serve as a platform for discussing diversity, equity, and inclusion in the classroom, according to Gronk and Scherf, 2010. Another reason is because this poem is rich language and literary value. The poem uses accessible yet sophisticated literary devices such as metaphor, simile, repetition, and rhetorical questions that help students enhance their understanding of figurative language and tone. Tomkins highlights how literature improves the fluency, vocabulary, and the ability to interpret figurative language, according to Tomkins, 2010. The conclusion is, Maya Angelou's Still I Rise is a fitting young adult literature poem because it is emotionally resonant, culturally significant, and linguistically rich. It empowers young readers to find their voice, comfort adversity, and understand broader social issues while improving their language skills. So, we will move to the third section, language learning activity that exploit Maya Angelou's Still I Rise for developing students' language, critical thinking, and literary skills. First activity, rise and respond. The skills that is needed in this activity is speaking and comprehension. The objective of this activity is to develop oral language, critical comprehensions, and interpretation skills by engaging students in close reading and discussion of this poem. Steps 1. Poem reading aloud in a whole class or group. Read Still I Rise aloud with apprehension. Teacher first, and then students will follow the teachers. These steps focus on pronunciation, rhythm, and tone. Second step, group discussion. Teacher will divide students into a small group in 4 or 5 members in one group. Assign each group a stanza to analyze. For example, Group 1 will analyze stanza 1, Group 2 will analyze stanza 2, and so on. Step 3. Guided comprehension questions. Students answer scaffolded questions such as, what is the speaker trying to say in your stanza? And what emotions are expressed? And what literary devices is being used in this poem? And then step 4. Presentation and peer exchange. Each group present their stanzas, interpretation, and then encourage question and feedback from other group. Last steps is reflection. For example, teacher can use exit ticket or journal. This activity will be done individually, and the student will reflect what lines stood out to you and why. For conclusion, the language skills targeted in this activity is vocabulary expansion, speaking fluency, literal and inferential comprehension, and poetic and figurative language interpretation. Activity 2 is My Voice, My Verse. In this activity, what is needed by a student is creative writing. The objective for this activity is to help students express personal experience, apply literary techniques, and write confidently in English by creating their own empowerment poems modeled after poem Still I Rise. Step 1. Review literary devices. Revisit simile, metaphor, repetition, rhetorical questions, and imagery using examples from Still I Rise. Step 2. Rewriting brainstorm. Prompt students to reflect, what challenges have I faced, and how have I risen or become stronger from that challenges. Third step, drafting the poem. Students write a short poem, 6 to 10 lines, using at least 2 literary devices that is being used in the poem Still I Rise. And the poem must include a repeated line, for example, Still I Rise, or a variation like I Rise Above. Another step is peer review and editing. After the drafting complete, the student will exchange poems and give positive and constructive feedback. This will focus on clarity, figurative language, and emotional impact from the poem that is created by the student. Last step is presentation and celebration. Volunteers or selected students will share their poems aloud. There are few options that will be given by the teacher for the student, that is, compile poems into a class anthology or bulletin board display. The language skills targeted in this activity is writing fluency, grammar and sentence structure, use of figurative language, and personal voice and emotional expression. So, the justification for these two activities, according to Tompkins 2010, is integrating literature through interactive and creative activities help learners develop literacy skills and personal connection to language, while Bashman and Hess 2014 emphasize the value of student-centered tasks in promoting language engagement and deeper learning. So, now we are at the end of presentation. The summary of this presentation is Still I Rise is more than a poem. It is a tool for language development, personal empowerment, and cultural reflection. It connects emotionally with young learners while strengthening their literary and linguistic skills. I Rise, I Rise, I Rise by Maya Angelou. The end. Thank you for watching this presentation. These are the reference that is being used in my presentation.